Hey HubSpot professionals, I'm Christian Bond, founder of Howley, and today we'll be looking at some new and exciting updates for the Howley platform. We'll start by looking at workflow planning, a brand new way to create a draft workflow and see connections before turning anything live in HubSpot. We also have a brand new way to visualize all connections at one time, which is particularly helpful for very dense portals with 2 or sometimes 300 workflows at once. We've also improved our filters, so you can now filter down by object type and action type. We've made it even easier to switch between portals, which is helpful for an agency or a consultant. And lastly, we're going to go over 4 new MCP tools for Howley's MCP. So let's get into it. All right, so I am in Howley here, and the first thing that I want to look at is the workflow planning tool. And you can find that in the left sidebar here, where I click Add a Planned Workflow. And when I click that, we can see that there is now a draft workflow in place on the canvas. And if I drag the canvas over, I'm going to place this here. And when I click in on that, I can now give it a name, and we are just going to call it a new planned workflow. From here, I can select my object type, whether it's a contact workflow, a company workflow, deal workflow, etc. I'm going to select contact, and then we select the enrollment trigger. So in this case, we can pick between contact joining a list or a property changes or manual enrollment. I'm going to select contact submits a form for this example. And under actions, we can set, well, what happens when that contact submits a form? So do they enroll in another workflow? Do we set a property? Do we send an email, add it to a list, etc.? I'm going to say set a property. And the property I'm going to set here is a lifecycle stage. And I do that by simply searching for lifecycle stage. We pull every single property that's live in HubSpot directly into Howley, so it's contextual and relevant to the portal that you're working in. After I've set property lifecycle stage, we can see that immediately there are some connections being drawn. But if we get a little bit more granular and select the actual stage, for example, MQL, then we can see that there are 3 connections between the planned workflow and the MQLs that are being triggered here. So I'm going to take these workflows and separate them here in the corner. And that essentially allows me to look at, I have a new planned workflow, and the actions that it sets is that it sets the property marketing qualified lead. And within this marketing qualified lead, I can see that it triggers 3 workflows. 2 of them are not live at the moment, so that's totally fine. But we can see that if I have a planned workflow that triggers MQL, it will start this workflow here called last activity date, less than 45 days, and they are an MQL. So that is how you use the planned workflow functionality. And there are a lot of other things you can do here. It can add it to a list or create a task, and all of these connections will be visible directly from the Howley canvas. I'm going to delete this for now and reset my canvas because now I want to show our filter functionality. So in the top left, next to the Howley logo here, we have improved our filters by added advanced filters. And so in this case, we can select status, whether it's active or an inactive workflow. And this is really helpful if you are a consultant or an agency, and this is the first time that you are seeing the client's portal and they have 300 workflows. This is one way that really helps you audit and get granular about what they have in their portal. I'm going to select active workflows for a moment, and then I'm going to filter by contact only. So this leaves me with 18 workflows here on the canvas. But what I can do is click advanced filters, and I can search by trigger type. So this is property enrollment, for example. I'm going to just make myself smaller here so I can actually click it. I'm going to select property enrollment, And then under property enrollment, that is where I can search for things like lead status, lifecycle stage, pipeline, deal stage, all of these properties that are as part of the contact workflows. I'm going to select lifecycle stage in this example, and then value I can select, okay, marketing qualified lead. We can see that there is one active workflow that is using the property lifecycle stage with the value marketing qualified lead. And this allows me to get very granular about what I have in my portal to make it even easier to audit everything. If I go customer, for example, we can see that there are 3. And within these 3 workflows, I can see the enrollment is when lifecycle stage is any of customer. All right. So that is how you use the new and advanced filters to get very granular about the data that's in this portal. And it's very helpful when you're auditing and when you're going through a client's portal or your own, and you need to find exactly what these workflows are doing and what they're connected to. So let me clear that out and go back to the canvas, because the next thing that we want to look at is the new all connections filter. If you've been in Howley for a while, notice that we have always shown your spaghetti mess across all of the workflows at one time. This has been particularly helpful, right, as you are creating your own canvas map, as you are creating those life cycles of the various nurtures and so on. But one key difference is that we've now added the routed connections. And with routed connections, it can make it a little bit easier to see all of the connections at one time, especially if you have 200, 300, 400 workflows on the canvas. Now you can really, I would say this is a better way to visualize your workflows at once. And you can, of course, still drag these workflows across the canvas and create your connections. But this is something that was asked for by some of our agency partners to make that view even easier to see as you are creating your lifecycle maps and your workflow maps. So that is how you toggle that on. So when you toggle all connections in the bottom here, you can see that there are 2 ways to see the connections. One is the routed, and then we also have the direct connections. And so depending on your way of working, or depending on what you need to see in the portal, you might prefer one over the other, and now you have the option to choose. And the last thing that I want to go over, I'm going to untoggle and I'm going to reset my layout. The last thing that has been asked for by our customers has been the ability to switch portals even easier. So when you're working with Howley and you're working with HubSpot at the same time, and you have 5 or 6 or 7 client portals that you're across, one ask has been, can we make it easier to switch between portals rather than logging in and out? And so that is where portal switching has now entered Howley. And you do that by hovering over the HubSpot Connected and simply clicking on Switch Portal. When I switch portal, you can see how quick it is that I select a new portal and how quick it loads up. And all of a sudden you are in a new client portal, of which you can toggle all connections and do the routed option if you would like. And now you can easily switch back and forth between your client's portal or your own as you are auditing, as you're mapping, as you're doing all of your workflow work. This is how you want to do that. So see how easy and seamless it took, or I was able to switch between portals, and it took no more than a few seconds to load up these workflow portals here in Howley. And the last thing I want to go over today is around the Howley MCP. So we just looked at how easy it is to now switch between portals as you're working in Howley, and it is actually equally easy to switch between them as you are querying Claude. And so what are some things that we can ask Claude around our HubSpot workflows? We can say, what are some issues around my HubSpot workflows. What happens now is Claude queries all of your HubSpot portals directly from Howley to give you workflow issues, portal health, and we can see that it scores 80 out of 100 on workflow health, and there are 99 total issues across 67 workflows. Some critical ones right off the bat, right, is there are broken enrollments. So these are things to be fixed first. We have 33 warnings. So lots of duplicate actions and duplicate workflows, stale workflows. And then we have some information here, which are, okay, there are 37 orphan workflows. They're not connected to anything, but maybe they don't need to be. Then we have 26 inactive workflows and 3 empty workflows. What's really cool here is that Claude actually gives us quick fixes, quick wins around the cluster here. Again, this is a demo portal, so I've purposely given it as many errors as possible, but this is to give an example of what that could look like. So we can then say, tell me more about the specific issues and how I can fix them. And when I do that, it further digs into the full detail on the workflow issues and then creates an actual action plan for me here. So let me scroll down. I'm going to allow that, of course, to get workflow information, and then Claude is going to create a plan directly for me. So these are, again, what I should be fixing first, a direct link and a name to where it is and exactly what it does. And then it tells me here for each of these workflows here, decide whether they should be running, and if yes, again, open it, toggle it on, etc. But then it also says here, risk of fighting right. So multiple active workflows set the same property to the same value. So I've purposely messed up this portal here. So we can see that there are several portals writing to the ICP tier. For example, there's also a lot of lead status workflows that are setting open deal. And so these are some critical things that when you're auditing and going through your workflows and going through either your own or your client's portal, that these are things that you should definitely look at. And while we can see everything directly in Claude and it can give us a suggested order of attack, which is amazing, this is how you want to do that. You can also see that same information directly from the health checker as you're going through the workflows. So if I am querying Claude around the broken workflows, for example, I can click on the set SMQL here. We can see that, okay, it's actually leading to 2 workflows that are currently inactive. So that is broken. That should be cleaned up. What I can do is I can click on open in HubSpot and it takes me directly to that workflow in HubSpot, which makes the cleanup process so much easier. So by using Claude and Howley, you can really get granular. And if you're working across your own portal or a client's portal, you're an agency or a consultant, it makes it so easy to switch between the portals and query Claude, get the insight that you need on the action plan and the next steps. And that is exactly how you want to have your plan of attack ready for when you are cleaning up and auditing and fixing this workflow mess. I'm Christian Bond. Thank you so much for watching today. These are some of our latest, newest, and exciting updates that are live for the Howley platform. And if you want to have a demo or want to learn more, go to howley.io where you can request a demo. You can learn all about what we're doing. And this is also where you can learn more. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.